Let's jump right into this. For the longest time, society has been completely fixated on this idea that intelligence is just about what you know. How many random facts you can recite at trivia night or how lightning fast you can ace a standardized test. But modern psychology, it suggests we are measuring it entirely wrong. Genuine intelligence is actually revealed through how you think, how you react to brand new ideas, and whether you are genuinely willing to challenge your own deeply held beliefs. So today in this explainer, we're unpacking 5 distinct psychological signs that someone might not be quite as intelligent as they think they are.
And there's a pretty massive irony here to kick things off. The myth we've all been sold is that the smartest person in the room is the one who already has all the answers. But psychology tells us the exact opposite is true. Assuming you've already figured everything out is actually one of the most glaring signs of low intelligence. Think about it. If you walk into a room firmly believing there is absolutely nothing left for you to learn, well, your mind is basically closed for business.
Okay, moving into our first section, the trap of certainty. Let's look at signs 1 and 2.
So, our very first sign is assuming you are correct most of the time. Truly intelligent people are constantly questioning their own conclusions. But lower mental flexibility, that breeds extreme confidence. Psychology actually has a name for this, overconfidence bias. It's this wild phenomenon where knowing just a tiny little bit about a topic, like skimming WebMD for 5 minutes and suddenly feeling totally equipped to argue with a literal surgeon, creates a completely false sense of certainty. You basically know just enough to think you're right, but nowhere near enough to realize what you're entirely missing.
And that leads us right into sign number 2, flat out refusing to change your opinion. We see rigid thinking happen all the time when someone clings desperately to their beliefs just to protect their ego or to win an argument at literally all costs. Flexible thinking, on the flip side, shows us that changing your mind is not a weakness at all. Actually, it's a vital, absolutely crucial sign of intellectual growth. Really intelligent people will adjust their stance the absolute second that new, convincing evidence pops up. Let's shift gears to section 2, surface level thinking, where we'll cover signs 3 and 4. For the third sign, we find that low intelligence really often manifests as this black and white, all or nothing thinking. Look, life is incredibly messy and rarely just simple rights and wrongs. Yet, some people constantly reduce really complex issues down to absolute statements. If you catch someone frequently throwing around words like always or never, or saying things like, well, it's just obvious, that is a huge red flag for shallow thinking. Genuine intelligence actually requires recognizing the hidden layers and the deep nuance present in almost every single situation.
Addressing the fourth sign, people who rarely ask why or how remain completely stuck with a purely surface-level understanding of the world. Innate curiosity is arguably the single strongest trait linked to actual, measurable intelligence. Why? Because it's literally the fuel that keeps the brain expanding. The exact moment you decide you know enough, your cognitive growth just hits a solid brick wall.
All right, section 3, the blame game. And this brings us right to sign number 5.
This fifth sign reveals a pretty harsh truth, but it's important. If you constantly blame everyone else for your problems, you are actively killing your own opportunity to grow. Yes, of course, outside circumstances matter, and some things are just totally out of your control. But constantly placing responsibility on others shows a severe lack of self-awareness. If your default setting is to instantly point the finger outward, say at your boss, the economy, or just bad luck, you never actually stop to examine your own choices. And without that internal audit, progress is basically impossible.
Let's bring this all together in section 4, the power of metacognition and rethinking how we think. Psychology connects true intelligence directly with this concept called metacognition. In really simple terms, it's the ability to reflect on your own thoughts and actions. It's literally thinking about how you think. You can picture it as the internal engine that lets you spot your own cognitive blind spots. If you never hit pause to ask yourself, wait, why do I actually believe this? Or, hey, is there maybe a flaw in my logic here? You are guaranteed to fall right back into those exact traps of overconfidence and rigid thinking we just talked about. So, the ultimate takeaway from this explainer is that intelligence is not about looking like the smartest person in the room. Not at all. It is entirely about thinking critically, adapting when the situation requires it, and being totally, wonderfully open to questioning yourself. Overconfidence, stubbornness, losing your curiosity, and playing the blame game, these things don't just hold back your success, they literally shrink your entire world.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on today. take a really honest look at the habits we've covered, because psychology makes one final, incredibly striking point. Sometimes the absolute strongest sign of low intelligence is never realizing it's there at all. So take a moment to look inward. Which of these habits do you honestly notice in yourself? Embracing a little bit of that discomfort is your first real step toward actually expanding your mind.